My wife and I have been officially together for 2 years now, and we have been dating for a year. Our story is pretty standard. We met, fell in love, and got married. Nothing unusual. We have children, a home, and a job. I fell in love with her because of her warmth and tenderness. Back then, I wasn't too fixated on female fidelity or commitment. I was young and carefree. Interesting fact, my wife is 9 years older than me. I'm 22 and she's 31. But the difference in her age never really showed up in our daily lives, and frankly, it wasn't necessary. There's something playful about her that makes her look like a girl at heart, and I've always found that charming. But as they say, all good things come to an end. This fateful moment happened on April 29th, when I revealed her little secret. We were both at work that day, though we work in different cities. They're pretty close. Suddenly, my phone rings, and I notice it's an unknown number. I answer, and a guy's voice comes through saying, "Your wife's been flirting with me." At first, I didn't react. I thought it was some sort of prank, so I asked, "Who? Where did you get this info?" He replied, "Don't panic and keep it to yourself." Then insisted I should meet him today so he could explain everything. My blood boiled with rage. A fiery anger surged within me. I wanted to confront this jerk right away and couldn't believe what I was hearing. Could my family really be involved in something like this? The seconds ticked away, and I was counting down the moments until I could confront him. I smoked a pack of cigarettes, dropped everything, packed up, and headed to the location he mentioned, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I arrived at the park shop, but he wasn't there. I lit a cigarette and waited. Time dragged on, and still no sign of him. After 40 minutes, I decided to call him myself. I was done with this madness. When I dialed, he must have recognized my number because he answered right away, saying, "Hey, I'm a bit tied up at work. Are you there yet?" I replied, "Yeah, can you hurry it up?" He shot back, "Just wait another 30 minutes, chill." My impatience was tearing me apart. Another 40 minutes passed. I still had no clue who he was, but I noticed some figures approaching. The guy turned out to be a bit rough around the edges, dressed plainly, and looked about my age. But I didn't care about that at the moment. I just wanted answers. When he walked up, he quietly asked, "Are you him?" I was ready to knock him down. My frustration was at its peak. I fired off questions in a fit of rage, nearly pushing him around. I felt like I was about to explode. He showed me everything, text messages from my wife that left me reeling. One message read, "I want you. This is the edge." My mind raced, and I thought, I'll make her pay for this. He tried to calm me down, but that only fueled my anger. All I could think about was getting back at her. He kept saying, "Don't be a fool. It's not worth it. Just run away from her." I didn't hear a word. I was consumed by jealousy and fury. Then I noticed he was about to leave. I stopped him, realizing he had a reason for coming clean. In my fury, I started demanding details from him, saying, "Tell me about your meetings and what she said word for word so I can really lose it." His response was frustratingly simple. "Flirted." That wasn't enough for me. I pressed on. "Did she mention me? What did you guys talk about? Where did you go? How exactly did the flirting go down?" He replied, "Apparently, she didn't say a word about you." And again, when I asked my other questions, it was the same. Flirting. He mentioned the texts I'd seen and added, "My advice? Just leave her. The important thing is you know the truth about her. What you say doesn't matter now." I shot back, "Don't lecture me. I can handle this myself." I fired off questions for another 15 minutes, consumed by jealousy. Then I asked, "Why did you tell me everything? Why did you expose her? What's your angle? You don't even know me." He explained, "I don't need to know someone to share the truth. I've been in your shoes before, and that's why I'm telling you. I can't stand women like that." I snapped back, "How did you even get my number? You could have just hooked up with her and kept quiet." To my surprise, this guy turned out to be decent. He said, "I told you, I can't stand people like that. I'm married myself, but I hid that from your wife. I took your number from her phone while I was setting up her internet." With that, he was ready to leave again. I suddenly had a brilliant idea. Maybe I could use the guy to uncover the truth. He started getting fidgety, saying if his wife found out, he'd be in big trouble. I just wanted to see if she would really betray him like that. I laid it all out for him. If she consented to anything, that's all that mattered. I needed him to keep the relationship going and tell me everything. I offered to text him the questions he should ask her. At first, he hesitated, worried about his own wife. I pushed. I'll pay you if I have to, just help me out. This opportunity's too good to pass up. Eventually, he reluctantly agreed. We swapped contact info, and I told him to start flirting with her right away. We'd keep each other in the loop. After we parted ways, I headed home, my mind racing about how to act around her. I was on edge, my nerves frayed. I got home, and wouldn't you know it, she hadn't returned yet. I started drinking and waiting, pacing the room like a caged animal. Then, finally, she showed up. You can guess what I was itching to do right there on the doorstep, but I managed to keep my cool. I couldn't interact with her as I usually would. The main thing was to maintain control. I didn't ask her anything. I just went straight to bed, pretending to be exhausted. Later, when I woke up, I went to the bathroom to call the guy and set the plan in motion. He didn't pick up, but fortunately, he returned my call about an hour later. I told him to send her a message that read, "Do you love your husband? Do you want me?" I instructed him to wait until the next morning and to let me know her reply as soon as he got it. I can't recall how I fell asleep that night. Drunk, lying next to her, feeling utterly miserable. I was so sick of it all. I kept stepping outside for smoke breaks, pacing the night away. When morning came, I pretended to be asleep until she left. But I hadn't actually slept a wink. She didn't seem to notice. She snored through the night, blissfully applying her makeup and getting ready in the morning. I checked my phone and found a message that said, "She said she loves you and doesn't want me. We need to end this, and she didn't mean it. I'm out of it now. You figure it out." My heart felt like a lead weight, but I wanted to confront everything. There was no escaping the anger. That fool was gone, so I called him. No answer. I tried for 3 hours, ringing him 10 times before I got to work. I realized it was pointless, but I told myself I'd take care of things with her that evening. I muddled through that awful day, unable to focus on anything else. How could I? My thoughts were a relentless storm. My bosses noticed too, insisting I wasn't working. I thought to myself, how am I supposed to work like this? It felt impossible, and I wanted to shout at everyone around me. When I finally got home that evening, I stopped to grab a couple of bottles of beer along the way, but she wasn't back again. I tried calling that guy, but he still wouldn't pick up. Then a thought crept into my mind. What if they were together right now? But then I wondered, why would he share this with me if that were the case? I wasn't sure, but the whole situation felt absurd. What was his angle? He has a wife. If he hadn't cheated, why refuse to help me? Or maybe he just didn't care about her. It felt too crazy to entertain. I forced those dirty thoughts aside. I was terrified of them becoming reality. So I drowned everything in beer, waiting for her to come home. I sat there, mind racing, thinking, what if she did agree to sleep with him? And now he could catch her in the act. But then I questioned my own thoughts. I just told him to get her consent, not to actually sleep with her. I just wanted him to touch her. My anger surged as the reality of it all sunk in. When she finally came home, I stupidly greeted her with, "Hey, how's it going?" She replied, "I'm okay, honey." I couldn't hold it in any longer and blurted out, "I know everything. I know about your flirting with someone else." There was a pause, and she tried to find an excuse, saying, "Don't think the worst of me," and started making up a story, insisting that she hadn't said anything like that to him. She said I was just gullible to believe him. It really struck a chord with me. I went outside for a smoke to cool off. When I returned, she was crying frantically, mumbling more excuses. I told her, "Stop. There's no point in trying to justify yourself. It's useless. He showed me all your messages. He turned you in." For the next half hour, she tried to justify herself like a fool. Then, with tears streaming down her face, she pleaded, "Forgive me, darling. I don't want him." I shot back, "So you did tell him about us, didn't you?" She went silent, leaving her without anything to say. I stepped outside again, needing a breather. When I came back an hour later, she was still sobbing, begging for forgiveness, swearing on everything that she wouldn't do it again. I called her names in frustration and turned away, but she fell to her knees, wrapping her arms around my leg, crying, "Please understand, nothing happened. I'm a fool. I'm so sorry." It's been 10 days, and I can't bring myself to forgive her. It's always in my head, the messages, the betrayal. She's scared I'll cheat as some kind of revenge, but that's not what I want. It's like she's turned into Cinderella, suddenly submissive, bringing me coffee in bed, acting all fragile. I keep pushing her away, but I know it can't stay like this forever. I need to decide if I can forgive her or not. Cheating Secrets podcast like me